Laws created by Christian politicians of centuries past to strictly uphold Catholic and Protestant moral values. You would think that such rules have no place in a modern, democratic, and multicultural country such as Germany.
Well, Rob, you'd be wrong. I'm sorry. Germany does not have an official state religion and is usually by convention secular, but laws which came from old religious customs and habits still exist today.
Did you know that it's still illegal to dance during Easter? And if you played live music in a room selling drinks and food, you could be fined over €1,000. And if you live in one of Germany's bigger cities, the deference to religion could seem crazy. You don't know that many people that are still religious these days.
Yeah, but living in big cities like Berlin or Hamburg, in Berlin, 60% of people are non-believers, and this could distort your view. The rest of the country, over 60%, are state-registered bona fide Christians.
These days, the state helps to collect funds for churches through the tax system and enforces the closure of shops on the Lord's Day, Sunday. And many people want a greater separation of church and state in Germany. But that task is not as simple as you might think.
Ben Knight wrote an article in the newspaper The Guardian this week on the Easter dancing ban, and he's joining us now. So, Ben, what is the Easter dancing ban?
Okay, so have you seen the movie Footloose?
I haven't, but I know what it's about.
Okay, it's a 1980s film with Kevin Bacon about a town in America where dancing is banned. And not many people know that, in fact, on certain holy days, holy Christian days in Germany, dancing is also banned. And that means that they're called holiday. It's a holiday law, officially that's what it's called, but it's also colloquially called the Tanzverbot, the dancing ban. And it means that any public dancing event is not allowed. And this is so that means nightclubs, indoors or outdoors, they can't close. And you can't even have live music in any room that serves food and drink on these days. Now that is there's regional variations. It's a state by state affair, so different states have different rules on everything. But in generally, that's what it is. And in Baden-Württemberg and Bavaria, which are like the most Catholic, have the most Christian cultures, the dancing ban is throughout Easter. So that is a Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, and Easter Saturday. All have a whole day ban, and then on Easter Sunday and Easter Monday, I'm talking about Baden-Württemberg especially now, the dancing ban continues from 3 a.m. till 11 a.m. Now, obviously, not many nightclubs are going to be open necessarily from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m., but there is this sort of this idea that you can't have any public dancing event. So it's quite and Bavaria also has the dancing ban in place for various other Christian holidays, including All Saints' Day, which is 1st of November, and also a day called Volkstrauertag, Totensonntag, that was it, Totensonntag, which literally means the Sunday of the Dead, which is the first Sunday, or the last Sunday before Advent. So it's in late November. And then on that day too, there was a dancing ban.
Wow, yeah. Interesting comparison with Footloose there. Yeah, makes sense. So what happens if you organise a dance with live music and food and drink on Easter Sunday at 2 a.m., let's say?
Well, you are risking a fine. The club, the event organizer, would be risking a fine of up to, in Baden-Württemberg, it's 1,500 euros. But as a caveat to that, I would say that it is policed by the local Ordnungsamt, like the local district council, Ordnungsamt, and that is not traditionally a very well-staffed enterprise. I mean, we're talking about small little local councils with maybe a couple of officers, and they would be policing these dancing bans. So in practice, a lot of the time, for different press reports, but in practice, a lot of the time, they're not heavily policed, and a lot of nightclubs simply risk opening and hope that no one complains. Because if someone from the public does complain, then the local council will probably chase it up, and then will shut that down, and you'll get a fine. But I talked this week to a few. There's a local club collective in Baden-Württemberg, which is sort of campaigning against this, and they kind of represent the event management and nightclub sector in that region. And there has been talk in that region of loosening this ban, relaxing it slightly. So they're kind of, it's a controversy every year. It comes around every Easter. There are people talking about should we have it or not, and a lot of the church leaders come out and they start talking about why it's like so important to have these quiet days, as a contemplative days, and it's like this, and we should like try to nurture this sort of spirit, this sort of a moment of spiritual calm amongst the hurly-burly of work and pleasure that we normally live through. So there's always these arguments, and you can read it, and it comes around every year, and you read it in all the different newspapers. And that.
The idea of enforced calm seems very strange to me. But, so I think some people would find it strange that laws which are based on religious practices are enforced in a Western country. Isn't Germany a secular society? Isn't church separated from state in Germany?
Yes and no. I mean, it is, but it's not. There's no actual constitutional thing separate. I mean, there's sort of different. Yeah, it is sort of considers itself a secular society, but it's not as dogmatic as it is like in America. It is part of, I believe, the Declaration of Independence or whatever. There's a constitutional thing about how important it is to separate church and state. But the church in Germany does still have like this residual influence on certain things. Like the state still collects taxes for the church, for example, the Kirchensteuer. That is like this. That's basically the state. Performing a service simply for the church, if you register as a Christian, then you have to pay tax, and that tax goes to the church. So it's not an absolute ban, and a lot of schools will still have crosses up and things like that. So it's not like an absolute ban, but yeah, it considers itself a secular society. Also, there's big regional differences. I mean, and also, like churches and education, all these kind of things are often governed on a regional level. So you have like the federal level and the state levels. A lot of these kind of issues are governed by a state level. So, and states like Bavaria, where the ruling party is the Christian Social Union. You will have, they will have like laws protecting Christian holidays and Christian sort of values.
Yes, it's so just to make it clear, something which I found very strange is that from your paycheck, if you are a Christian, for example, a percentage of your pay will be taken directly from your paycheck and given to the church, which I find very strange indeed. And also something else, how the state enforces, let's say, religious tradition, is that you cannot have shops open on Sundays throughout Germany.
Yeah, again, this is like there's a sort of creeping debate about this all the time. Like retailers and people, they keep lobbying to like soften that ban. So yeah, the Sunday trading laws are still a little bit more strong than they are in the rest of the Western world, I would say, and that's partly because trade unions are a little bit stronger here too. I mean, there's also they protect workers, and so a lot of the sort of centre-left social democrat type people will be in favour of protecting Sunday trading. And I mean, in Berlin, I know that there's like 4 Sundays a year. There's this like one compromise they've come to is that 4 Sundays a year the retailers are allowed to trade. So all the department stores and the shopping malls are all open for those like Sundays for certain hours. But then other Sundays, normally it's like all closed and you can't do it and it's illegal. And it's also like little shops are allowed to open, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, very strange that it comes from religious tradition, but because of the trade unions saying we want to make sure that workers have at least one day off on a regular basis where they can plan things around the family. It's interesting that it's moved from religious tradition and that it's being kept by workers' unions. If we look at the amount of religion that's in Germany, I was quite surprised to find out that 62% of Germans are Christians, officially registered on paper Christians. How much they believe or not is another matter. But if you live in places like Berlin or the other big cities in Germany, you wouldn't really encounter much of that. Only 32% of Germans are officially not affiliated with any church. So, yes, so there seems to be actually there seems to be a lot of religious people in Germany.
Yeah, although East Germany is like, there's a big difference between East and West, is East Germany is very secular. In fact, I read somewhere that East Germany is like the most atheist of any area anywhere in the world. It's like the highest proportion of atheists. So there's kind of a big regional difference there.
I guess coming from the German Democratic Republic, discouraging religion.
Yeah, and odd as well, because a lot of the in the history of East Germany, a lot of the and if you compare Poland, for example, the church was like a big part of the resistance to the communist rule was centered on the Catholic Church. Which is why Poland is extremely Catholic now, and that's partly because it was a popular movement in the anti-communist, as part of the anti-communist movement. But that isn't so much the case in East Germany. Didn't seem to have been anyway.
Well, I think when most of our listeners will listen back to this, it will be after Easter, so don't worry. If you're living in Germany, you can dance again now without facing a fine. So, Ben Knight, freelance journalist, thank you very much for joining us here on This Week in Germany.
If you'd like to read Ben's articles on German politics, head over to his website, benknight.de.